Today we are looking at Royden Lepp's post-apocalyptic and mostly all ages story, Rust. What's going on, Omnibuddies? Mitch here, and today we are looking at Rust by Royden Lepp. This series jumped out to me off of the bookshelf, really, as I was passing it at my LCS, and I started reading volume 1 of 4, and I got hooked. I stood there at my LCS reading, I think about half of volume 1 of Rust, and I was absolutely blown away. The art style was super cool, pretty original, and the story was also really original for a sort of post-apocalyptic story. And I say sort of because it's kind of got that post-apocalyptic vibe, almost like a farm vibe where they're trying to survive. Very much kind of got that vibe from Interstellar, if you've seen that movie, where they're kind of on that farm trying to survive in a world that's been ravaged, this time by war. And it was super interesting. So I had to find, they only had, I think, volume 1 and 2, or volume 1 and 4 or something like that at my LCS. So I had to go online and grab the other volumes, and then I picked the other ones up from my LCS. And boy, oh boy, was I very glad that I picked it up, because man, this series is super fun. It's innovative. The art style is super cool. And I'm really excited because not only did I enjoy it, but I think that my oldest daughter, at least, is going to be able to pick these up and have a lot of fun with them. All right, I'll stop talking about it here. Let's take a closer look at the books. Royden Lepp's Rust series is fully contained in these 4 novels, which includes The Visitor in the Field, Secrets of the Cell, Death of the Rocket Boy, and lastly, Soul in the Machine. These 4 volumes are absolutely beautifully bound in cloth hardcovers with amazing end sheets on both sides of every single book. So you get some really cool photography on 8 different end sheets. It's a ton of fun to see what they did for each book. These are published from Archaea, and they retail for $24.99 each. So volume 1 follows Roman Taylor, who is a young man who's struggling to keep his family's farm afloat way out in the middle of the country, as they are, well, the whole world is really recovering from what seems to be a world war, whether it's World War III or alternate history or just a completely different universe that we're in, is kind of left to the reader to decide. I kind of took it as this is post-World War III, where the whole world has kind of been set back, but still has some of these robotic technological advances that they are dealing with. Rust picks up at the Taylor farm as a mysterious guy, Jet Jones, crashes into their barn, and really the entire story takes place on this farm, around this barn. There's a few times where they leave, but they are most always coming back to it. It is cool seeing this big story happening on this little farm, but it also does take place around the world as it flashes back about 48 years multiple times throughout the book to fill in the details of this war, where Jet Jones comes from, and the mysterious scientist that has been trying to track down someone. I really don't want to say too much more than that about the characters, because if I go beyond that, it really does kind of ruin some of the mystery, and I'm really not into ruining stories and giving any kind of spoilers like that. I will say that the characters are really cool. It's really interesting to see Roman Taylor, the older brother, trying to take care of the farm, and as he's learning to repurpose these robots and, you know, how to code them and keep them safe, and learning more about his father's past and about the townspeople that are around him. I guess I shouldn't really say townspeople, it's more farm folk around him. Really cool, interesting characters all around that are revealed more as you read more of the volumes. It's definitely a slow burn in the pace of the story, but overall, all 4 volumes actually read relatively quickly. So you're not looking for a huge month-long investment to get through these books. I would say you could knock out each of these books in 1 to 2 nights if you have a couple hours, especially because they are so engrossing, and there really isn't actually much dialogue happening in these stories. As you're seeing, there's a ton of stuff that is just told through visual sequences. And speaking of the visual sequences, they are gorgeous. I've come across very few books where they actually focus between panels from one character to the next and kind of rack focus, as it's called in the filmmaking terms, but where they are focusing on one character and then the next panel they actually change the focal point to the other character in the scene. Really gorgeous stuff, and especially because they are on a farm, they do have some really cool stuff to work with, like barns and old farm equipment, and especially the field and kind of the wheat or hay, whatever kind of agriculture is happening there. I'm not a farmer, so I don't really know. Where they are focusing on a character or a subject in the distance, and that crop in the foreground is out of focus. It is absolutely wonderfully done. Not only is the art itself gorgeous and so interesting and different from what I'm used to normally seeing, but the actual color palette is really interesting too, because it's mostly monotone, where it's got this like old sepia, however you pronounce it, look to it, where it's got this yellow weathered old feel to it. So it's nearly gray tone, but it's more of a sepia tone. And I frankly haven't seen that very often, if ever, in a book. I've seen a lot of black and white, gray tone, all that kind of stuff, but very few actually do a more monotone look with the sepia colors. Now let's jump back to the characters. I really, really do love all the characters in here, and actually as a father, it's really hard seeing this. Like, it's kind of one of my worst nightmares come true in this, is like where if I were to disappear, die, whatever happens to me, I'm not around anymore to take care of my family. To see a family like this struggling so hard, and especially the kids struggling to pick up the pieces and continue living on, and just struggling all around. And especially with a situation like this with a big farm and having to deal with keeping up with the just massive workload, it's heartbreaking to watch it. But it does really put some real stakes to these characters and to these situations where, you know, they're trying to fight giant robots or fight mysterious foes along the way, but just to keep the farm afloat, where they are trying to keep up with equipment and keep up the house and the barn, and then the struggle of whether they should fix up these old robots that used to be used for war, and those ethical dilemmas in that. It's got a lot of great, interesting takes, and it's got a lot going on, but it's told so simply and so well that it is definitely an all readers book. I wouldn't say it goes down to new readers or anything like that, but definitely tweens, teens, and up. It is an awesome, wholesome, interesting adventure that I feel most anyone could enjoy. All right, so I hope that gave you a good idea. I really, really tried to stay away from spoilers for this story because, well, really for any story, because I really hate giving away any spoilers. I like to talk about the vibe, the art style, my overall impressions of the story, so that people don't get too much, but they get enough to get hooked. So I guess that's the idea of a dealer. I don't know. Maybe I'm a book dealer. I don't know. Anyways, I really enjoyed this story. I know Lepp has a couple other series, mostly for kids out. So now I really want to dive into those and see how good they would be for my kids. And I have no qualms thinking that, you know, like I have no doubts that they'll be great for other kids. I know he is also from the Pacific Northwest, and he does a lot of really cool stuff. So if you follow him on Instagram, he does a lot of great like drone stuff on there. Super cool. I I always love when creators and people do like very, I mean, that's visual too as a design, as an artist and creator and storyteller, but very different type of visuals. I always like when people have like lots of different hobbies that are sort of adjacent, but mostly different. Very fun to do, very fun to follow. There's another one that I follow. He is, like a professional, like extreme sports athlete, like always jumping off cliffs and stuff. And he did It Remains. Super cool. But anyways, I'm rabbit trailing. I absolutely love this story. It had so much heart, and it had, man, the characters were very cool. They were very relatable. It breaks my heart reading stories about kids struggling to survive without their parents around, and dealing with that emotional baggage of, trying to continue on. And especially in this story, dealing with post-war, like not necessarily knowing what happened to their father. And man, it's good. It is so good. And the art style, there's very few books I've seen that use that depth of field where, like, I guess I could give you a visual right here. Like, I'm in focus right now, but like everything behind me has that blur. It's out of focus. That's that bokeh, the depth of field. I very rarely see books do that, and do it really well. The only other book that I could think of off the top of my head that does that really well, that really stuck with me, is Issambashi, which I did an overview of that book too, but where they actually draw the characters in focus, and then they almost like rack focus, where it switches from like, up here to them back here, and it like racks focus from panel to panel. It is so cool, and it is so well done, and the color palettes are there, but they're very muted, and there's not a lot of color to them, so they're nearly like monotone, but they got a little bit here and there that switches it up, and panel to panel, pages to pages, books to books, they switch around a little bit depending on the mood, the lighting, all that kind of stuff. So really cool, really well done art. I really enjoyed it. Overall, it's a very quick read too, because as you saw on a lot of those pages, many of the pages aren't, they don't have words. So it's a lot of just reading the pictures and getting the story through the panels, which is often very much harder to do than just like, just exposition and just word dumps to get the story across. It's a lot harder to do visually when you're not using words. So it's very cool to see really great emotion in those characters. The paneling was like basic, but it flowed really well, and there's those great like large page, like double page spreads in there. And man, the books themselves are super good quality by Arcadia. They got that like fabric, and it's not faux, it's like real fabric covers on there, and man, really nice foil on there. These books were great, and they're not expensive, a little bit harder to find maybe, but they're not like really rare or like out of print and expensive or anything like that. So they're not very hard to find. So definitely try and pick them up. I will try and get OPB to see if they can get all of the books too, so you can get them there. But definitely, if you can't find them on OPB, check out Amazon. I'll try and link them in my Amazon link down in the description too. Do all that. But yeah, great stuff by Royden Lepp. Really enjoyed it. Definitely check it out. All right, that's it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, do all of those things. But the most important thing to do is comment. Let me know in the comments what another great like all ages book is. I know I just have been like singing the praises of Canto. That was a great story. My daughter absolutely loved that one too. So I can't wait to get her into this. very cool. I was tempted to say like all ages post-apocalyptic, but I feel like that's very niche and very hard to find. So this was a pretty rare occurrence. So let me know of a great all ages book where like young readers, tweens, teens, maybe, or even like tweens, teens and up, where they can all enjoy it, where it's, you know, pretty cool story, not like overly complicated or anything like that. But let me know in the comments that we can all, at least all of us parents or people who like enjoy those like wholesome adventures and fun adventures and stuff, can pick up some different story ideas. All right, that's it. Take care. Stay cool.